Okay, this question gives us the parabola y equals x squared minus 6. And the first thing we want to do is we want to construct a function of x to express the distance from the origin to a point xy on the parabola. So y equals x squared minus 6. Let's go ahead and draw a version of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It comes up pretty fast. Looking something like that. Now I've got a point at the origin and I'm going to pick a point xy. And the distance from the origin 0, 0 to xy can be thought of this way. It can be thought of as a hypotenuse of a right triangle. And of course, this distance is x and this distance is y. So we get the distance squared is x squared plus y squared. But this parabola that we just drew over here was y equals x squared minus 6. So using that fact, I can say the distance squared is x squared plus y squared x squared minus 6 squared, so that the distance is the square root of x squared plus x squared minus 6 squared. So we have that. Let's go ahead and put that in. So we'll go ahead and write in that function. So it's just a function of x. That's what we're going to need to use our graphing calculator, which will be the square root of x squared plus x squared minus 6 squared. So that's going to be our function. And then we want to actually draw a graph of that function. So to do that, I'm going to use the graphing calculator or Desmos, but since we need to use the minimum finder, graphing calculator is probably the right tool for that. So let's pull up the graphing calculator. Y equals button, square root, x squared, square root x squared, plus parentheses x squared minus 6 squared. I'm going to draw a graph of that function. I'll start with zoom decimal. And I would like to see a little bit more above there, so I'll make my Y window a little larger. So I'll change my max from 4 to maybe 10. And we've done that. So we've successfully drawn the graph. Now remember, the x value corresponds to what? The x value corresponds to the x value on the curve, okay? So whatever x value we have, we are looking at this number. The y value on the graphing calculator is not the y value on the curve. It's y meaning two different things. The y value on the graphing calculator means what? The distance, okay? So what we found is we found all of the distances that correspond to the x value. So remember that. This version of the graph, the x value is the x point on the parabola. The y value is the distance from the origin to that point on the parabola. So we know that. So we've drawn the graph as we were told to do on the problem. Next it says use a graphing calculator to find the minimum value of that function. Okay, so we're going to need to go back to the graphing calculator to find the minimum. Minimum finder here will deal with positive values of x. So second calc, minimum, enter. Move the cursor a little bit to the left of where it crosses, which is about here, enter. Move the cursor a little bit to the right of where it crosses. Guess where it crosses. and I get 2.345 and 2.398. I'm going to call that Y1 just so we're clear about 2.398. Now let's talk about what that means. So the X value is 2.345, which might be about here. That certainly is not Y of 2.398, but this distance is 2.398. But I need to determine what is the Y value that corresponds to 2.345. And the way I do that is I plug that into x squared minus 6. So all I've got to do is I've got to find the Y value that corresponds to 2.345. So Y is 2.345 squared minus 6. What does that give me for Y? Approximately 2.345 squared minus 6 gives me about negative 0.501, which I could believe. Just a little bit shy of the axis. So again, let's draw a better picture here so we can see it. This is what we believe we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 1, 2. It goes a little bit beyond. The point here that we believe is our closest point, we said the X value is 2.345. We said the Y value is about negative 0.501. And the distance that we received from the minimum finder on the graphing calculator was about 2.398, if you'll recall. I'll show you what I mean by that. When we did that minimum, Y1 is the distance. With the X value of 2.345, the minimum distance was about 2.398. So we can answer all the questions on the paper now. What is the X value of the point on the parabola closest to the origin? Well, we believe the X value we found that X was about 2.345. Y value, we had to plug Y value into X squared minus 6, and we found Y to equal about negative 0.501. And then the shortest distance from the minimum finder, the shortest value of Y1 on our graphing calculator, we found that to be about 2.398.